On Pesach, we celebrate the Yetzias Mitzrayim, the Geula and liberation of the Jewish people from their exile in Egypt. But the question we need to ask is, what was the purpose of Galus? Why were they subject to the suffering in Egypt in the first place? There's a beautiful medrash which describes how Moshe Rabbeinu took the book of Bereshis, the book of Genesis, and as he was reading it, it made sense to him. Because any time he saw a punishment occurring, he saw a sin that was recorded immediately prior. When he read about the generation of the flood, when he read about the generation of the dispersal, the Tower of Babel, the city of Sodom and Amorah, any time there was punishment, there was a sin that justified that punishment. But when he read the book of Shemos and saw the suffering of the Jewish people in Egypt, seemingly in the form of a punishment, he could not understand, because there was no sin that they had done to warrant such suffering, to warrant the exile that they were going through. The explanation for this is found in the writings of Chassidus and Kabbalah. Chassidus explains that to go from one state of existence to a higher and greater level of existence, there needs to be an ayin be'emtza. There needs to be a sense of negation, absence, or breakdown in between. And so that is what took place over here. In the beginning of creation, the level of godliness that was manifest in the world was the name Elokim. The name Elokim represents the contracted level of godliness which is relative and limited to the order of creation. And this was also the name that Hashem appeared to the Avos with, the name Kel Shakai, also a name which is associated with the limited godliness of creation. But now Hashem was preparing the world to introduce a greater light, the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, the divine name which represents godliness which far transcends existence, which would be brought down through the Torah and the observance of mitzvahs. But in order to go from the former existence to a greater, deeper level of godliness to be revealed in the world, there needed to be the Galus Mitzrayim. The Galus Mitzrayim was the ayin be'emtza, was the sense of absence and negation in between, the darkness that would precede the newer and greater light. And the analogy which is brought for this is the planting of a seed. A seed is one state of existence, but it is limited. In order for that seed to grow into a tree which will flourish and bear fruit, and therefore be far greater than the seed was initially, it needs to be placed underground where it must decay, where it must rot, and only then can it flourish and grow into something greater. Or, to go from one state of yesh to another state of yesh, there needs to be an ayin be'emtza, a negation in between. And the lesson of this, I believe, is very powerful in our own personal lives. Whilst true, sometimes negative things happen because they are punishments for misdeeds. But there is another type of negativity, another type of challenge that we face when we go through the downs and lows in life that is not necessarily, God forbid, about punishment, but rather is a preparatory and necessary stage in order to come to higher levels of growth, higher levels of experience that we wouldn't have had were we not challenged in between. Therefore, when a person goes through difficulties, be they in matters of health, God forbid, be it the loss of a job, or in other areas of their lives, one has to put into perspective that this has to be used as the opportunity to bring us to a greater light, to a greater level of achievement and accomplishment. And in that perspective, were it not for that negative lapse, were it not for that own inner exile, and we would not be able to come out to our Yetzias Mitzrayim and come to that greater, higher level that we are capable of reaching.